Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up in our news tonight, an officer shot during a brazen daytime robbery at the international airport. Officers make a gruesome discovery in a vehicle in the Carmichael Road area. The tourism minister optimistic about growing travel numbers. Welcome to our news, the weekend edition, and thanks for joining us. I'm Georgia Bain, topping news tonight. An officer is in hospital after being shot during an armed robbery at the Lyndon Pindling International Airport on Saturday evening. Press liaison officer Audley Peters says officers are searching for the second suspect responsible.
Shortly after 5, the officer at the LPIA was assisting a business establishment with a deposit. When he arrived at the deposit site, he was accosted by a gunman who shot him before escaping. However, the officer, who was conscious, was taken to the hospital via the ambulance, where he would have been taken to theater and been operated upon.
The officer is listed in stable condition. Officers are confident that this matter will be brought to a close quickly.
We have a suspect in custody who is assisting with police with the investigation. And shortly before this cast was being aired, another suspect was being sought for in the Cowpen Road area. We believe that in due course, this matter in itself should be brought to a closure.
Officers were also called to the Carmichael Road area Saturday evening after residents made a gruesome discovery in the backseat of a car.
Sometime after 5 this afternoon, police received information of a decomposed body that was found on a property on Wendell Drive in Sunset Park. Officers arrived on scene and they were directed to a vehicle. When on inspection, they found the badly decomposed body of a male in the backseat. At this time, we do not know the identification of the male nor the cause of his demise. So we are going to wait for an autopsy report to determine the cause of death and also an identification by the next of kin to determine the victim's identity.
According to Peters, the victim appeared to be in his late 40s to early 50s, but due to the condition of the body, that information could change. Anyone with information on any of these events are asked to call police at 328-TIPS. On the heels of a major repatriation exercise where 500 illegal migrants were returned to Haiti, government officials were unable to say how much was spent to house and repatriate those migrants. When pressed on the matter, Immigration Minister Keith Bell said it was too soon to tell.
We would have those figures once we complete the exercise. As you are aware, there are a number of migrants that are on the boat that we're trying to take off. We have two housing facilities that we've identified, and until we have actually repatriated every single person, I cannot give you a figure in terms of the monetary value that we're going to place on this.
The remaining migrants were expected to be repatriated this weekend. Well, former Immigration Minister Ellsworth Johnson believes that rumors are contributing to the recent influx of Haitian migrants heading to the Bahamas. The Royal Bahamas Defense Force recently announced that it has apprehended more than 1,000 Haitian migrants in Bahamian waters in the past few weeks. Appearing on our TV show On the Record with host Jerome Sawyer, Johnson said coupled with socioeconomic issues, news of a new prime minister may also be causing the influx.
Obviously, our brothers in the South from the Republic of Haiti is experiencing socio-political and economic, and you add humanitarian crisis. There's only so much that we can do, and you've heard, and I know from my experience, which you saw in the United States, 30,000 Haitians turning up on the doorsteps of the United States with the notion that they would be given political asylum because someone spread that, and there's monies to be made. And then at one point, you had persons saying that there was a bridge built from the Bahamas. Well, now the context is that you have a new Haitian president in the Bahamas, and he's flung the doors open.
Johnson says the new government must be extremely careful.
We have to do as best we can to protect the dignity of the human person, but firmly say to persons, because we're stretched thin when you look at schools, healthcare, social welfare system, that there's only so much 400,000 people can do. If we take 4,000 persons, right, you're looking at 4% of your population. And so you have to be extremely careful.
The issue of illegal migration is not specific to the Bahamas. Thousands of migrants are attempting to cross the border of Central America to the United States and are subsequently being repatriated to Haiti. Johnson says the issue of migrants leaving Haiti must be treated as a regional matter.
As forceful as we can be in respecting the dignity of the human person on a loving way to our brothers in the South. We have to say this is what we're able to do and demand of the region and the world that more has to be done to help a country like Haiti that's done so much.
Well, still to come on our News Weekend, the former health minister defends the rationale behind travel visas. A local women's group explaining the real cause of low voter turnout. And later we take a look at some of the most memorable quotes of the week. That's coming up when our news returns.
A new prime minister.
We have the right vision, the right policies, and the right team to take this country forward.
A new government and cabinet. And now a new legislative agenda.
We will be very, very aggressive and make them extremely accountable.
Join the RTV team as we give you full coverage of the opening of Parliament. October 6th, 9 a.m.
You're watching our News Weekend. Welcome back. 68 deaths are under investigation for COVID-19 as some deaths have been reclassified, including the death of a man in October of 2020. There have been 555 COVID-19 deaths since the start of the pandemic. 18 deaths were reported yesterday. In addition, 67 new COVID-19 cases were reported. There have been 21,265 confirmed COVID-19 cases in the Bahamas since the pandemic began. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism Chester Cooper is expressing optimism over visitor arrivals for the remainder of 2021. Cooper says so far there have been steady bookings heading into the peak of the winter season. Our Jasmine Brown reports.
On the heels of a year that saw a sharp decline in visitor arrivals, newly appointed Tourism Minister Chester Cooper says he is optimistic. He says during the typically slow fall travel season, the numbers are looking good.
I'm advised that we have steady forward bookings and we are optimistic about the next few months and the numbers in terms of stopovers in particular.
The global COVID-19 pandemic brought the tourism industry to a grinding halt for much of 2020. But in 2021, visitor arrivals continue to climb. While tourism numbers remain below their record-breaking 2019 levels, former Tourism Minister Dionisio Diaglo revealed in August that stopover visitors have been staying longer than they usually would. He also predicted that the country's airlift would be back to the pre-pandemic capacity of 4,000 seats by the end of the year. Cooper says the demand remains high.
There is a very significantly high demand for the Bahamas as a tourist destination. The Director General has assured me that the trends that we are seeing is very positive for the future.
The Deputy Prime Minister says the goal is to get the industry back on track as soon as possible.
I've indicated before that our priority is to return the numbers of tourists to pre-COVID levels. We're working hand in hand with our partners to ensure that we can get there for the betterment of the Bahamian people.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Former Health Minister Renwood Wells is defending the need for the travel visa, saying that it was a useful tool for the Ministry of Health Surveillance Unit when it came to contact tracing.
Let's look at the facts. The facts is, for Bahamians domestically, there was no cost for the travel visa. The Ministry of Health had asked that we kept the domestic travel visa because it was a way of keeping track, using it as more or less a contact tracing tool. And so all Bahamians needed to do was go on the website and simply upload the data of their test. There was no cost for that. And it gave us an opportunity, Jerome, if you left from New Providence going into a family island and you happened to become positive in that family island, we now know which flight you took. We knew all of the individuals who were on that flight. We know where you went. So we were able to then get a better handle from our surveillance unit in health.
The Davis administration has already amended the cost of the travel visas, and more changes are expected to take effect on October 1st. Wells says that many of those changes were already in place.
On the international side, the only thing that was reduced was for unvaccinated Bahamians, because vaccinated Bahamians, the travel visa was already free. They did not pay. For unvaccinated Bahamians, there was a $40 charge, and a part of that charge really was for the 5-day antigen test that you would have needed to have taken once you came back in country. For foreigners, though, it was a little different.
Wells says he is happy to see that the new government is realizing the importance of the travel visas.
When you look at the travel visa, the government was talking about how they were going to get rid of the travel visa. They now realize the tool that the travel visa is, the requisite information that they're able to garner from this travel visa, and they are now saying that it is an excellent tool from the standpoint of just information.
Well, when our news comes back from the break, it's time to take a look at some of the most memorable quotes of the week. But first, a local women's group explaining the real cause of low voter turnout. The Bahamas makes its presence felt on the international stage. We have the details when our news weekend returns.
A new prime minister.
That we have the right vision, the right policies, and the right team to take this country forward.
A new government and cabinet. And now a new legislative agenda.
We would be very, very aggressive and make them extremely accountable.
Join the RTV team as we give you full coverage of the opening of Parliament. October 6th, 9 a.m.
You're watching our news weekend. Welcome back. Representatives from 192 countries from around the world have descended on Dubai for Expo 2020. Although delayed due to the pandemic, the Bahamas Pavilion promises to showcase the best that the country has to offer. Representatives from 192 countries from around the world have descended on Dubai for the Expo 2020. Although delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Bahamas Pavilion promises to showcase the best the country has to offer. Bahamian arts and culture are connecting minds and creating the future at Expo 2020 in Dubai. The Bahamas Pavilion is located in the sustainability area of the Expo, with a structure feature the bright colors and movement of Junkanoo, as well as the pristine natural beauty of the Bahamas. Visual artists have created paintings, sculptures, and custom pieces highlighting climate change and its effect on the Bahamas. No world showcase could be complete without some real Bahamian flavor with the best of Bahamian cuisine. World expositions and world fairs are known for leading innovation and showcasing cutting-edge technology. The Eiffel Tower, the ice cream cone, and the Ferris wheel all debuted at past fairs. Well, the general election is now weeks behind us, but there are some elements that cannot be ignored, according to the Bahamas chapter of Caribbean Women in Leadership. Augustina Dragovich tells us more.
Elections are over now. It is now time to work together and build, and that's what we're looking for.
However, Sewell Chair Charlene Paul says voter turnout is something that should shape the way forward. The 2021 general election saw a voter turnout of about 65%, considered the lowest in the modern Bahamas. Before that, the 2017 general election had the lowest voter turnout since 1987, with about 88% of voters heading to the polls.
The low voter turnout, I don't think we can ignore. It is an indicator of the voter fatigue and the absolute disillusionment of a lot of Bahamians in the political process, in governance, in government.
However, she says the new government also has the opportunity to forge ahead and learn from the challenges faced by the previous administration.
This administration, the Davis PLP administration, has a huge opportunity to reset the mindset of Bahamians as it relates to governance, to change the trajectory, to encourage, to inspire that government can do differently.
That includes focusing on those populations that felt disenfranchised during the last election or simply unmotivated to go to the polls.
The Prime Minister Davis has already spoken about being inclusive, about ensuring that others are added, their voices are added to ensuring equality. Well, these are low-hanging fruit that we believe that should he act on these promises, our nation can see a huge turnaround. We can inspire our people to believe again.
As the Davis administration prepares to lay out its agenda in the speech from the throne at the opening of Parliament on October 6th, Paul says Sewell will be looking for good governments and transformational leadership that makes decisions in the best interests of the people. Reporting for our news, I'm Christina Dragovich.
Still to come on our news, it's time for the Quote of the Week. Find out what it is after this break.
A new Prime Minister.
We have the right vision, the right policies, and the right team to take this country forward.
A new government and cabinet. And now a new legislative agenda.
We would be very, very aggressive and make them extremely accountable.
Join the RTV team as we give you full coverage of the opening of Parliament, October 6th, 9 a.m.
It's time for us to take a look at the most memorable quotes and moments in news this week. The first quote comes from Public Service Minister Fred Mitchell, who revealed the reason why the government pumped the brakes on stacks of promotions it met in the pipeline.
What seems to have happened, looking at the actions in the last weeks of the administration, was that there was an attempt, it appears, and I don't want to say it's so, till you actually know the facts, to put what you call a poison pill. So the idea was that it would hobble any new administration. And two things seem to be at play. One is to offer an incentive for people to vote for the past administration, and then secondly, a poison pill, so that presumably those who were promoted or hired were, in quotes, supporters of the last administration and would therefore end up causing problems for the new administration.
And the second quote of the week comes from this distraught family members of missing taxi driver Robert Bethel, who has been missing for over a month.
I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, what we going through. We trying to be strong for each other. My sister called me and, so we got to hold on, we got to be strong. I tell her the same thing, but, sometimes it's hard being strong.
And the final quote comes from Inagua residents who saw an influx of more than 1,000 Haitian migrants on that island before repatriations began.
Yeah, on edge. We know that the nature, it could be of some of them, I guess, when they get comfortable and stuff like that, some of them are running for their lives. And I know some of them don't really want to go back. But, as an island and even the Bahamas, we only can take so much.
Well, right now it's quite risky because we never had this influx of Haitians before. But in the past, we learned to deal with the situation.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for our News Weekend. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Georgie O'Bain, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.